Hello, my friends on YouTube. Today I'd like to speak about the second wife of Muhammad, and her name was Aisha. The reason we already spoke about the first wife, Khadija, that she was a wealthy woman and then she died. Muhammad inherited her wealth, and now is the time to remarry. Uh, the second wife of Muhammad is very interesting. Her name is Aisha. She is the daughter of his second and most influential disciple, who was later to become the first caliphate after the death of Muhammad. His name was Abu Bakr, and his daughter was Aisha. After the death of Khadija, Abu Bakr, the father of Aisha, suggested to Muhammad to marry his daughter, who then was only 6 years old. And his wife, when she heard that, she said, "No way that this will happen. This is only a child." I think any sane person, not necessarily 100% sane, if you have only half brain in your head, anyone would say no to suggest to a 51 years old to marry a 6 years old child, 6 years old child. So the mother of this little girl said no, which is natural reaction. Then the father, her husband, Abu Bakr, took her aside, sat with her, they spoke, and then she came back. She said, "It's okay." And the question here, why first she said no, and then a little bit later she agreed that this 6 years old can marry 51 years old, but only if he waits 3 years until he consummates his marriage with her when she is 9 years old, and he is 54. It's despicable, but this what happened. Why her mother changed her mind? The reason is money. Money. She was sold to Muhammad in exchange for money. And I don't mean the dowry. Probably like everyone else, he paid her dowry. But then he inherited money from his very wealthy wife, Khadija. So the dowry was not a big deal for him. Abu Bakr, her father, was a merchant, and he was very smart man. Muhammad was even though he did a lot of bad things, he was very charismatic and he was very smart man. He was really ahead of his time. Now, why the mother agreed to that? Nobody knows why, but I mean, you can be reasonable and look into the subject and make assumption. I'm very sure that her husband, Abu Bakr, recognized the charisma that Muhammad has and the bright future of wealth he will have. He was with him since the very beginning. Okay, so he accompanied him for more than 15 years. So he knew him well, and he knew that this is a golden opportunity to become wealthy. and his daughter to become very wealthy and very influential. So he sacrificed the daughter for the wealth and the fame and the prosperity that he sees ahead. It doesn't matter if it's looted, if this wealth was looted, taken by force, by invading other people and stealing their wealth. It's not the issue here. The wealth was coming, the money was coming. Her mother agreed to that. This is the very beginning of Islam, buying and selling human being. Okay? No wonder after Muhammad died, the most hadith that was written in the books was coming from Aisha. Hadith means some people heard Muhammad saying certain things about certain people or subject. So if they memorize a hadith, then they will tell the caliphate about it and it will be recorded. So Aisha, she gave the most account of hadith, but it was all to justify her taking the position from from Muhammad's cousin Ali. I am not supporting the Muslim Shiite. I am not against the Muslim Sunnis. I I really dislike any form of Islam, whether it's Sunni or Shiite or whatever. They are all to me worthless. So, but the fact remains that Muhammad gave an order that after his death, his nephew, I'm sorry, it was his nephew, not cousin, his nephew Ali is the one who should be in charge. Yet it was Aisha and her father who conspired to put her father in the position so that he can keep the wealth, the influence, and then later on to pass it to his daughter. And Aisha, we spoke about that before, she had bad blood with Ali, the nephew of Muhammad, who was when she was caught committing adultery with the guy Safwan. We spoke about that like about a couple of months ago. Anyway, that she slept in the desert with this guy, and that put Muhammad in a dilemma, and his nephew suggested for him to divorce her. And Muhammad struggled with that very much because if he had done so, that would have actually destroyed the whole enchilada from beginning to end. So what Muhammad did is he waited for 30 days until she had her period, and he made sure that she is not pregnant, and then he told everybody, no, she is innocent and she never done anything, as if she stayed in the desert with a young guy. Muhammad at this time was in his early 60s, and this guy was a young guy. She was still like 15, 16 years old, young girl, staying in the desert alone with a young man. Well, were they playing chess? Muhammad knew what was happening. His nephew knew what was happening, and therefore he suggested to divorce her. That made her boiling on the inside. She cannot let this guy take charge. So she had to take the caliphate from him, give it to her father. Her father was poisoned. They all killed one another. Muhammad was poisoned. His first caliphate, Aisha's father, was poisoned. The second caliphate, Omar, was stabbed to death. The third was murdered. The fourth was murdered. And all after that, they are killing one another. Why? Because this how it started. It was money, wealth, looted, stolen, in whatever manner you can get. Look at ISIS today and see what they are doing. They are attacking villages of people who are working hard, honest people. They have their family, their homes, and they go out to work. They come back at home to eat dinner with their family, rest, and go out again the next day to resume their work. And that's how they accumulate wealth. It's not stolen, it's accumulated wealth through hard work. Then Muhammad or ISIS today go invade these villages and loot their wealth. Once you practice that, practically you cannot stand up for long. Today, uh, is the world is going through a very interesting period. I predicted, not that I am a prophet, no, I predicted that the end of Islam and the end of communism. And even though China seems to have its claws like clenched in every corner of the earth, all over the world, and so it was the Soviet Union in the late uh, 1980s, 1987, practically it started to shake, which was 70 years time from the time of establishing the Soviet Union, 1917, 1987, the signs started to show, and then it started to collapse. 1989, practically the Soviet Union collapsed. The Chinese Communist Party was established in 1949. Last year, 1919, they celebrated their 70th birth, or their 70th year of establishing this party, and they seem to be very prosperous. And it was the same for the former Soviet Union. When it was 1987, they seemed to be in the golden age of communism. Suddenly, they crashed. Now, with the coronavirus, it is coming from China. The question is, was it human invention, or it was a natural virus? Was it let go intentionally or accidentally? This is only that we are waiting for. But China seems to be, honestly, controlling the world. 70 years, 1919, it was 70 years, similar to that of the former Soviet Union. So I really expect within 2 years, similar to what happened with the Soviet Union, China will fall apart. Next will be Islam. Adios.